opinyon ng pag-uulat ng mag-uulat sa programang ito ay hindi ang pangunahing posisyon o pahayag ng pamumunuan ng organisasyong ito. The views and opinions expressed in this live report are those of the presenter and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the management of this organization. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Inclusive Report. Today is Thursday, March 10, 2022. I am your host, Carlos Miguel Kanahashi, and together with me is Sir Mark Betita for our technicals. And we're broadcasting simultaneously on InkluRadyo and to be uploaded on the next day on the Hands-in Inclusion Pilipinas YouTube channel. We shall commence our presentation in just a moment, and we will be back after our commercials. Now this.
Para sa aking pamilya, para sa aking kapwa, at para sa bayan. Kahit mahirap, kahit masakit, mahal ko kayong lahat. Kahit anong mangyari, ikaw, ako, tayo. Ating isisigaw sa mundo. Inklusibong may tatag, angat buhay itatahak. Matapang pa rin tayo. Ang tropa, hindi nang iiwan. Ang senyas, isang instrumento. Ilang beses matumba, tayo'y huling bababa. Luman ang ating pinagalingan. Tayo ay muling liliwan. Para sa pangarap, para sa pamilya, at para sa bayan. Tayo ang ida. Tuloy ang inclusion.
Welcome back to the Inclusive Report. This afternoon, we will discuss to you about how is the coronavirus disease 2019 related and how is this affecting persons with disabilities. So without further ado, Sir Mark, share screen please. So without further ado, we will discuss to you about COVID-19 and persons with disabilities in the Philippines. Next slide, please. Okay. So next slide, please. Okay. In our topic, ladies and gentlemen, the ongoing coronavirus disease 2019 pandemic has significantly affected the lives of many throughout the world. One population highly impacted in the group is persons with disabilities. They are disproportionately affected because, ladies and gentlemen, because of their heightened vulnerability to the disease, but also due to the regulations implemented to control the spread of COVID-19. Throughout the world, 1 billion people, or about 15% of the world's population, are reported to be living with some form of disability. In the Philippines, approximately 1.44 million, or 1.57% of our population have a certain disability. So in other words, ladies and gentlemen, persons with disabilities are highly vulnerable to the COVID-19 epidemic. Ladies and gentlemen. Next slide, please. So, what are the ways and how persons with disabilities are done during this pandemic? First, inaccessible information. The Emergency Social Management Framework and congressional resolutions requiring Filipino Sign Language interpreters to broadcast, media, and to community-based training of Filipino Sign Language to facilitate information dissemination regarding COVID-19 screening and quarantine facilities. The Emergency Social Management Framework's integration of information for preparedness activities were also given importance to provide accessible formats such as print materials in braille or large print, sign language interpretation, captions, audio provision, and graphics for persons with disabilities. So, in other words, this is done through this framework wherein they have to have Filipino Sign Language interpreters during newscasts on the big three networks at the time: ABS-CBN, GMA, and TV5. Next slide, please, Sir Mark. In access to healthcare, the Department of Health provided measures to include persons with disabilities in their access to healthcare, sickness and disability benefits, medical reimbursements, and free physical and occupational therapy for the beneficiaries for PWDs of the Kagabay program were provided by the Employees Compensation Commission. Furthermore, healthcare inclusivity was covered in full force by PhilHealth. Why? Because this is seen in the deployment in the ongoing vaccination program for COVID-19 in our country, which includes A3 or what we call as persons with comorbidities, including PWDs. And under this priority group, PWDs in that group will be prioritized because Group A prioritizes frontliners because they're the ones who sacrifice their lives during this trying time. Senior citizens, which are also most vulnerable to the disease, and those with comorbidities. Ladies and gentlemen. Next slide, please. In the access to education, DOLE's Employees Compensation Program provides the beneficiaries of persons with disabilities with free skills and entrepreneurial training. Although these were not expounded elaborately, this will be of importance to the persons with disabilities due to the economic changes brought about by this trying time. So what does this mean? Sir Mark, balikin. So, ito, I will call you. Okay? So, before I ask him a question, Sir Mark, hello?
Yes po.
Sir, ito ang tanong. Paano magkaroon ng access to education sa mga persons with disabilities during this pandemic?
Through internet po.
Yan.
Magkaroon po sila ng information drive na sa internet, sa TV, sa radio.
Tama yun. Thank you. Okay. So that's why, ladies and gentlemen, the PWDs have the right to access education because, lalo na especially those in the education sector, because as you may know, the COVID-19 is affecting the education sectors worldwide, which leads to the near total closure of schools and educational institutions throughout the world. And in the Philippines, as you may know, the COVID-19 pandemic has is greatly affecting education, which nearly closed thousands of schools throughout the country, and forcing the Department of Education, the Commission on Higher Education, and all schools and educational institutions throughout the country to shift or modify the method of teaching to distance learning or online classes, or what we call as distance learning. While face-to-face classes are still prohibited until a go signal is made by the Department of Education, the Commission on Higher Education, the Department of Health, the IATF, the WHO, and the Joint Task Force COVID Shield, and of course, the Mahal kong Pangulo, or the Office of the President of the Republic of the Philippines. Next slide, please. So ito, financial support. Actually, because of this pandemic, di ba, maraming mga nawala ng trabaho, which nearly results to the closure of businesses. And as you may know, some of these are done through the ways of work, di ba? Some of them are shifted to the two types, skeletal workforce, and also the rest via work from home arrangements. So regarding financial support, PWDs are entitled to receive employment benefits and opportunities and monetary benefits. The ECC, together with the IATF, has agreed to give out cash livelihood assistance, which lead to the issuance, or what we call as ayuda, or what we call as the Social Amelioration Program, which is a joint between DSWD, DILG, and the local government units. And also the TUPAD from DOLE. TUPAD is tulong paghahanap buhay sa ating disadvantaged workers. This is a community-based package of assistance that provides emergency employment for displaced workers, unemployed, underemployed, and seasonal workers. Yan yung tupad, or what we call as the 8,000 pesos, ladies and gentlemen. Meron namang nabigyan yung Social Amelioration Program, it will be per household, ladies and gentlemen. And they also have online trade fairs, so that the purpose of this is to safely sell their products. Discounts for health services and treatments for their disability were provided to PWDs through the services of PhilHealth. Next slide, please. This one. Community quarantines were implemented to protect people in the residential settings from COVID-19. This entails restriction of mass gatherings and only allowing travel for essential needs. Vulnerable groups such as age 18 and below, seniors, and PWDs have stricter quarantine measures. They're not allowed to enter public spaces unless absolutely necessary. Government groups such as the IATF are also distributed face masks and face shields to vulnerable groups for further protection. So why is this so? It's because ito ay para ito sa ating protection, at una, dahil ang dahilan kung bakit iniimplementa ang community quarantine sa ating bansa kasi ito ay ginawa para ma-contain yung spread ng COVID-19 sa ating bansa. Ladies and gentlemen, which urge people to stay at home. Next slide, please, Sir Mark. When we say reasonable accommodations for persons with disabilities, new policies were implemented to adapt to the needs of persons with disabilities during this trying time. They include the recommendations to allocate priority lanes and to penalize acts that vilify PWDs. PWDs are allowed to send representatives to claim their emergency subsidies. Cash assistance were also delivered door to door, especially to PWDs who are the heads of the family. Standby ambulances and paramedics of subsidy payout sites were provided. Continuation of physical therapy services were allowed for PWDs. PWDs were allowed to go outside their residential homes as part of their exercise regimen in therapy upon presentation of PWD ID or prescription from the physician. Apart from these, PWDs were also allowed to request transportation help from their LGUs should they need it. The reason why they do this is for them to be assisted properly in order for them to be more protected, especially during this trying time. Next slide, please. Consideration for persons with disabilities facing multiple exclusions. In an effort to recover from the effects of this pandemic, the national government created a referral unit, the Regional Federation of PWDs, in order to access needs and services for PWDs. Surveys were also deployed to determine the needs of PWDs in labor and employment. In inclusion to decision-making process, only one document recommended the inclusion of PWDs in the decision-making processes in their concerns about policies about accessibility, acceptability, and quality criteria and in emergency response. However, it remains to be seen if this was properly implemented. The reason why they do this is para makapag-ayos sa kanilang desisyon, para maging ah, para mas properly ma-organize yung decision making nila ng mga PWDs. Next slide, please. As the COVID-19 started to increase or to grow or in view of the growing number of cases of COVID-19 in the Philippines in March 2020, the Philippine government responded how to impose quarantine measures or what we call as community quarantine. It was announced on March 12, 2020 during the President Duterte's address to the nation that the implementation of the community quarantine and the implementation of the stringent social distancing measures in order to stop the spread of COVID-19 in the country. And that's a day after the WHO declared the coronavirus disease 2019 as a pandemic issue, ladies and gentlemen. Under the highest classification of community quarantine, which is at the time it was enhanced community quarantine, the general population ordered to stay home. Travel is only limited to access goods and services. Most forms of public transportation were suspended. These restrictions loosened as the area's quarantine classification decreased, which is general community quarantine. Those under the age of 15 or over the age of 65, comorbidities, immune deficiencies, and pregnant women were still prohibited from traveling outside of the residences unless absolutely necessary. Because of this, the economy and everyday lives in the world, including our country, came to a halt. Why? Because millions of Filipinos, including PWDs, were left jobless. 70% of PWDs reported that their employment had been affected by the pandemic, ranging from a shift to skeletal workforce and work from home to being at risk of losing their jobs. But now, because that's February 26, 2021, because of a new implementation or the amendments in the 2021 calendar of activities in our country by the sign when proclamation number 1107 took effect on that day. The reason why they have this proclamation that Proclamation number 1107, ladies and gentlemen, is because the purpose of this is for the country to recover from the adverse economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. There is a need to encourage economic productivity, among others, to minimize work disruption, and to commemorate some special holidays as special working days. And because COVID-19 protocols promulgated by health authorities to ban large gatherings and festivities that usually take place during public commemorations. And consequently, PWDs and other marginalized groups face increasing fears due to the uncertainty magnified by COVID-19. Next slide, please. The government of the Philippines recognized these issues and enacted policies and programs to account for the needs of persons with disabilities prior to and during the pandemic. Examples of this is the implementation of the Magna Carta of Persons with Disabilities and the Filipino Sign Language Law. Magna Carta for Persons with Disabilities grants the rights and privileges of persons with disabilities. Persons with disabilities under this act are defined as those suffering from restriction or different abilities because of mental, physical, and sensory impairment to perform an activity in the manner or within the range considered normal for a human being. Persons with disabilities are granted rights under employment, education, health, auxiliary social services, telecommunications, accessibility, and rights, political and civil rights. It prohibits discrimination against these persons with disabilities on employment, transportation, and the use of public accommodation and services. In line with this, the Filipino Sign Language Act mandates the use of Filipino Sign Language to broadcast media and other government transactions, among other situations. The Philippine government's response to the increase and novel needs of persons with disabilities during this pandemic has been guided by these provisions, as evidenced by the COVID-19 responses that fall under the themes of the framework. Unfortunately, there are gaps in implementation of these acts that have been highlighted by the pandemic. Next slide, please. Okay. Apart from these shortcomings, it was notable that some of these policies treated PWDs as a homogeneous group without considering their specific needs and barriers to accessibility. This was seen in the method of the DILG, or the Department of Interior and Local Government. And the purpose of this is to distribute food packs, vitamins, and medicine because each PWD experiences different barriers due to their unique impairments and functional limitations. The PWD community should be viewed as composed of several subsets. For these reasons, it is important to include PWDs and the representatives in the development of policies. Next slide, please. We are united in enjoining everyone to get vaccinated because when more people are vaccinated, we will achieve our target to gain or achieve herd immunity. Our economy will slowly begin to reopen, and this is the very important for all the livelihoods and the entire country. We are happy to take part in this kind of platform and collaboration. And that's why including urge all the people, including PWDs, to get vaccinated in order for us to achieve herd immunity so that we can go back to the way we were just before this pandemic, or in other words, to return back to the pre-pandemic life. Next slide, please. To summarize our topic, ladies and gentlemen, despite this, the study demonstrated that implementation remains to be a problem. Because of this, impact from these policies has yet to be seen. There's a tendency for these policies and advisories to overgeneralize PWDs because it is important to recognize the heterogeneity of PWDs to better account for their specific needs. Moreover, there is not enough focus on adequate implementation and on evaluation of existing policies and programs. It is important to identify existing gaps and barriers to address these shortcomings and to be able to cover as many PWDs as possible. A comprehensive national database should be instituted to centralize registration across all LGUs. This will also assist in the creation of policies and programs that are suited to the needs of PWDs. Efforts should be made to inform, guide, and to educate PWDs of their rights and of existing programs. More importantly, PWD should be included in the discourse and decision-making process for policies that concern them to ensure programs developed are accessible and acceptable. So we will be having our short intermission. Will be And when we come back, we will be having the other parts of our show, Election 2022 updates, our get to know our candidates, some of the announcements, and more. We will find this out later as the Inclusive Report returns after the break.
Isang mapagpalang araw po sa ating lahat. Ako po si Esperanza Marso mula sa San Mateo Rizal. Isang ina na may anak na may autismo, si Penelope Marso. Kasalukuyan, ako po ay Pangulo ng aming samahan ng Autism Society Philippines San Mateo Chapter. Sa samahan kung saan ang mga magulang, tagapag-alaga, ay may mga anak o kasama sa bahay na mga anak na may autism. Ang salitang inclusion o pagtanggap sa iba pang term ay mahalagang papel na ilagay na lang sa at sana na ipatupad sa pangkalahan natin, lalo na sa mga kritikal na mga tao. Dahil ang salitang ito, inclusion at pagtanggap ay napakalaking factor para lalo na po sa aming mga anak at sa iba pang may mga kapansanan o kondisyon. Dahil sila po ay tao rin na katulad po natin na itinga na tao at masigit pa nga po dapat ang pagtanggap pagkalitan sa kanila dahil sila po ay may mga kondisyon na kung saan kailangan na mas inulitin, mas tanggapin at mas yakapin ng ating lipunan. Dahil sila po hindi kagaya ng mga titigil na tao na nakakanawa, nakakapag-stress ng kanilang damdamin o mga nais na hindi katulad ng titigil na tao na kailang sa bayan sa lipunan ng kanilang. Subalit ng mga may kapansanan, lalo na ang mga relasyon ay tulad ng mga anak, hindi po nila kayo pangayag ang kanilang So, ang salitang pagtanggap, inclusion, yun lamang po ang aming kailangan po nila para maramdaman po nila na sila po ay kabilang sa lipunan na ating pinaglaman. May kasabihan nga na ang mga ngayon kailan pa. Hindi ikaw, sino ka? Sana maging daan po ito, maging simple po ito na sa pagbubukas ng mga kaisipan at damdamin ng bawat isa. Natanggapin at malayan yakapin ang mga tao na kasana at kondisyon. Sana po dumating na araw na lahat ng tao, lahat ng mga nangyayari sa Pilipinas, sa Pilipinas, sa Pilipinas, malayan ang kapilin at yakapin sa ating patuloy. Ito lamang po ang maraming salamat. Mabuhay po tayo.
Welcome back to the Inclusive Report. Our next part of our show for this day Next slide, please, Sir Mark. We will be having our election 2022 updates. So here now is Pulso 2022 updates on the May 9, 2022 national and local elections. Okay, Comelec says to stop off-land backlash in private properties after the temporary restraining order of the Supreme Court. Comelec said Wednesday it will stop dismantling campaign materials in private properties following the issuance of a TRO from the Supreme Court against off-land backlash. In a press briefing, Comelec spokesman James Jimenez said the en bloc agreed to obey the order, but added that offline backlash operations will continue in public spaces. He said, during the discussion of the en banc earlier, it was agreed that Comelec will honor the temporary restraining order issued by the Supreme Court. We will continue with our backlash operations in public spaces as required by law. However, as far as backlash in private places, that is held in abeyance in deference to the court. Under Opland Backlash, Comelec personnel and agents dismantle illegal and oversized tarpaulins and other campaign materials, even those inside private properties posted by private citizens. The SC's TRO was issued in response to the petition filed by the St. Anthony College of Rojas City, Capiz, and the two self-proclaimed supporters of Lenny Robredo. So here now is we're now done with our election 2022 updates. Now we'll have the time to get to know our candidates for the May 9, 2022 elections. Our featured candidate for the day, next slide please, is Baldomero Falcone. He'll be running for senator this year. But before he is a Filipino business consultant and a politician who ran as a candidate in the 2013 elections under the newly accredited Democratic Party of the Philippines, but he lost. But before that, he studied at Sacred Heart Seminary, University of San Carlos in Cebu, Asian Institute of Management, and a PhD candidate for philosophy at the University of the Philippines in Diliman, Quezon City. And will also be running for senator this year in the elections this May. This May 9, 2022, let's continue to vote wisely in the elections. Next slide, please. Now let us move on to our next part of our show, our announcements. Next slide, please. So as part of our continuing efforts to support our organization and as part of our help to us here in this organization, we urge everyone, including our viewers, to purchase our products in the Hands-in Inclusion Philippines online shop. So the products that we are selling are the t-shirts, the tote bags, and the Talano Gold Colored Limited Edition One Inclusion Nation t-shirts. For the One Inclusion Nation t-shirts is available in red, black, blue, white, and yellow. All sizes were 275 pesos. For the Talano Gold Colored, prices are ranged between 325 to 350 pesos, and sizes are ranged between small to large and XL. For our tote bags is available in white and black. Sizes are ranged between medium to large, and prices are ranged between 150 to 200 pesos. So how can you order there, ladies and gentlemen? Well, first of all, we'll be very strict on payments. Payment first before purchase. And we're accepting payments from GCash and will deliver your ordered products via GoGo Express and LBC as well. Next slide, please, Sir Mark. Ladies and gentlemen, the HNI Inclusion Philippines online shop is temporarily closed for areas under Alert Level 5, but it will continue to serve in areas under Alert Level 1 to 4 only. Its operating hours are from 12 midnight to 11:59 in the evening. For a full list of orders, please visit the Hansi Inclusion Philippines Facebook page or email us at hansi.inclusion@gmail.com. Next slide, please. As part of our continuing efforts to support our organization, we at Hansi Inclusion Philippines needs your help. To be honest, many of us have already been struggling with our financial problems in our organization. So regardless, no matter what, it doesn't really matter if the amount is smaller or larger, it will be a great big help to us. How? You may donate Hands in Inclusion through GCash on this QR code that is flashed on your screen. And also, if you want to do the Barya para sa Inclusion fundraising project, you may donate using a coin bank. Any amount can do, ladies and gentlemen. And you may donate using Union Bank as well. So, please, and please lang, please continue to support our organization by donating Hands Inclusion Philippines. Please continue to help this organization for its fundraising project. Our purpose is to aim to raise funds in our organization. Let us have the time to rebuild in order for us to have a bigger, a better, and a bolder Hands in Inclusion Philippines. Our proceeds from the sales in the online shop and for your donations will go to us here in Hands in Inclusion, especially for the formality, for the expenses, and the financial aid of the members due to the effect of this pandemic. So guys, for those who did this, thank you very much as well. If you want to buy some accessories from Ate Lady Jane, you may order through Lady Jane Accessories or L Jane Accessories by messaging her on Facebook, or you may contact her using WhatsApp. Next slide, please. If you have any problems with your computer, regardless if it's the brand is Apple, MacBook, or Windows, if it's what type of computer, is it a laptop or a desktop computer? If you have phones or tablets, or regardless if it's Android or iOS, and also if you want to download games, movies, or music, then you may message Sir Mark Betita and he'll be happy to assist you. You may contact him on his number 0947-355-4759, or you may message him at Mark Paulo Betita Facebook page. And Sir Mark Betita will be happy to help and assist you. Next slide, please. So we have some events coming up for the month of March in Best Buddies Philippines. On March 12th, this Saturday, is Perfect Friendship Pins, and the next week is Spread the Word Inclusion with Best Buddies Philippines and Special Olympics Philippines, and also the Guild of Thomasians Educators of the Pontifical and Royal University of Santo Tomas from March 14 to 17. Next week also is Ambassador Training with Nexus and Asurion and Best Buddies Philippines on March 15 to 18. We'll be having Wellness Wednesday with Coach Pepper on March 16. We'll be having Beloved Friendship Bracelets on March 19. March 21 to 25 is Inclusion Week with Best Buddies Benilde And March 26th is Jolly Friendship Jams. So if you want to join these events, follow Best Buddies Philippines on Facebook and Instagram. Send them a message and they will send you the registration form and the link as well. Just a reminder for this, Best Buddies Philippines is a non-profit, non-denominational, and a non-political organization. We support a clean and fair elections and do not endorse any political party or candidate. As members of the Best Buddies Philippines community, please refrain from endorsing a candidate during the activities of Best Buddies Philippines. And in Best Buddies Philippines, make a friend, be a friend. Sir Mark, next slide please. Okay, we urge everyone to continue supporting Project Sold Out. We would like to thank Uriah Gallery and Special Achievers and our partner organizations for making this event possible. If you want to check this out, please check the Special Achievers Facebook page as well. Next slide, please. If you want to crave for something, especially for your breakfast, your lunch, your merienda, or dinner, or any birthday or parties or occasions, then you want to order some of the foods from the Sobra Comfort Food Restaurant and the Kuya Korea Restaurant. For the Sobra Comfort Food Restaurant, the menus are for our all-day breakfast, tapa sobra, chicken tocino, corned beef brisket, homemade spam, and beef salpicao. Sizes are ranged between solo to large, and prices are ranged between 265 pesos to 1,450 pesos. Next slide, please. For our rice trays, we have beef bulgogi, beef shawarma, beef gyudon, pork crackling bits, pork mini burnt ends, charred chicken, and boneless fried chicken. Sizes are ranged between solo to large, and prices are ranged between 265 pesos to 1,700 pesos. Next slide, please. For our sandwiches, we have the fried chicken sandwiches, food pros sandwich, chicken tocino sandwich.
Okay. May calling ka pa?
Opo. Corned beef sandwich and chicken tocino sandwich. Sizes are ranged between regular, solo, large, and box of fours. Prices are ranged between 320 pesos to 1,540 pesos. Next slide, please. For our pasta, we have mac and cheese, and penne and gorgonzola. Sizes are ranged between solo to large, and prices are ranged between 290 pesos to 1,350 pesos. Next slide, please. So, if you want to order from the Sobra Comfort Food Restaurant, you may head over to the Sobra Comfort Food website, select the dishes you want to order, choose between pick up or delivery, pay conveniently through any of the same integrated payment methods, and your order is confirmed. Expect updates via text or email. Next slide, please. If you want to crave for something Korean, you may want to order some of the foods from the Kuya Korea Restaurant. For the Kuya Korea Restaurant, the menus are, we have for the rice bowls, beef bibimbap, beef bulgogi, pork samgyup, and K-pop chicken. Prices are ranged between 195 to 220 pesos. For our chicken, for the boneless popcorn chicken, sizes are ranged between half to whole, and prices are ranged between 235 to 435 pesos with the flavors of gochujang, ganjang, chicken, and K-buffalo. If you want to order there, please check the Kuya Korea website for your orders as well. Next slide, please. If you want to have rather, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be having the webinar of De La Salle College of St. Benilde in collaboration with the Office of the Vice President for LaSalle Mission and Student Life, the Center for Inclusive Education, the Benilde Student Envoys, and Best Buddies Benilde about gender inclusion and safe spaces. This will be on March 24th, Thursday, from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. on Zoom during the Inclusion Week celebration. The speakers are Attorney Cheyenne and Miss Amber. This event is free and there will be sign language interpreters for the deaf and or the hard of hearing as well. If you want to join, please check the registration form as well on the Center for Inclusive Education Facebook page. Next slide, please. Lastly, follow Hands in Inclusion Philippines on our social media pages and its digital platforms as well. It will be appreciated for you guys to do this as early as now. Follow us on Facebook, Hands in Inclusion PH, InkluRadyo, InkluSports, InkluNihan, and the online shop. Instagram, Hands in Inclusion PH. Twitter, HNI Philippines. Kumu, HNI Philippines, and subscribe to the Hands in Inclusion Philippines YouTube channel. So guys, for those who did this, thank you very much as well. Next slide, please. Now it's the time for our shout-outs and greetings to Sir Mark Bitita and to Lady Jane Florese. Good evening to you and thank you for watching. To ang tropang PWDs, shout-out as well, and Palmera Boys, shout-outs as well. And also sa mga to the Benildians who accepted the deans, who got the dean's list for first term 2021 to 2022. Congratulations as well. And also to those who are celebrating their birthdays, we'd like to greet happy birthday to, especially to the founding directress of my alma mater in elementary and high school, Multiple Intelligence International School. Happy birthday to Mary Joy Canon Abakin. And also to those who are celebrating their birthdays today, happy birthday and expect the more birthdays to come. To those who are celebrating their anniversaries, happy anniversary as well. Shout outs and greetings to my family, to Hands in Inclusion Philippines, Best Buddies Philippines, Best Buddies Benilde, and other PWD organizations, especially to my high school and college friends as well. And to those who are watching, it may be a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. I hope you guys are in a good mood, but if not, you may use this time to improve on your mental health and your well-being as well. For those who are watching me on InkluRadyo, thank you very much as well. If you missed this episode, it will be premiered on the next day on the Hands in Inclusion Philippines YouTube channel. Next slide, please. Here's our quote for the day. Next slide, please. In relation to this, from Pat Wadors, when we listen and celebrate what is both common and different, we become a wiser, more inclusive, and better organization. Okay? So now, yes, Tuesday. Sir Mark, can you disable the share screen, please? Sir Mark, open cam, please. Thank you. Okay, last Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen, we celebrated the very important milestone in the history of Hands in Inclusion Philippines as we celebrate the 5th year anniversary of this organization. Hands in Inclusion Philippines is a community of volunteers that involves campaigning for persons with disabilities in our country. We put God first, truth first, and a Filipino first inclusion, and also to promote our culture in our society. Inclusion is our trust because we need to advocate the voices of persons with disabilities in our country. Hands in Inclusion Philippines was founded last March 8, 2017 by Roylan Marlang, a Pasayeño self-advocate with autism. This initiative was started as Inclusion in Action. Over the past 5 years. Despite all the achievements in the history of this organization for the past 5 years, we continue to show that this is the true seal of a one inclusion nation and a one inclusive Philippines. Nakaranas kami ng pansamantalang pagsasara or yung temporary shutdown noong June 6, 2020, hindi kami nawala ng pag-asa at biyaya. So enhancing inclusion, we put God first, truth first, people first, and to promote our culture in our civilized society. So, and without further ado, so the best gift for us in this 5th anniversary is that we would like to appeal to all the members of HNI Inclusion Philippines to observe proper decorum so that we don't have any problems in the future. Let us continue to have a good example. We must learn how to show good attitude and show to be professional, to discipline to other people. Your cooperation and your undivided attention is highly appreciated. We should learn how to be considerate, to understand each other, and to be self-controlled. Sa ibang salita, dapat maging maunawain, maawain, at magalang. Maging mabuting halimbawa tayo, ipakita natin ang ating tamang asal at maging matino para hindi tayo makakaproblema. Ang ating kooperasyon at ang ating atensyon ang kinakailangan natin. Act like a neutral person, maging simple tayo at akasapur, huwag tayo maging asal elitista. Dapat sumunod kayo sa mga inuutos. Huwag lang asa-asa sa mga inuutos mula sa may-ari at sa tagapangasiwa ng ating organisasyon. At higit sa lahat, huwag maging kampante at huwag ding matigas ng ulo. Sir Mark, any words to say, please? Our best gift for this anniversary of HNI Inclusion this year?
Yun nga po. Yung gaya po ng sinabi nyo, wag maging kampante, maging masunurin, wag maging pasaway. Lahat po ng sinasabi po ng ating boss, dito po sa company na to, kailangan po sumunod po tayo dahil hindi na po para sa kanya to, para sa atin din pong lahat to, para po maging maayos po yung ating company. Yun po, maraming po salamat.
And also, guys, the reason why we need to do this is for us doing its best for being peaceful, organized, and systematic in our organization. Ito ay ginagawa natin para magiging mapayapa at maayos ang organisasyon na ito ng matagal. And also to be more competitive, decent, and organized or group in a long-term situation. So that we can be at par with other PWD organizations that are organized, systematic, and cooperative as well. And also to our viewers watching, to everyone watching this episode. Apart from your patience and understanding, we need your help and for your prayers, regardless of your faith, for the anticipated return of HNI Inclusion Philippines in the future as a formal non-government organization and to expect a fresh new start or a brand new start in our organization. Sa lahat ng mga nunood at sumusuporta, hiling po ang inyong tulong at panalangin para makabalik para sa pagbabalik ng HNI Inclusion Pilipinas sa panghinaharap bilang isang formal na organisasyon at sana magkaroon na tayo ng bagong simula sa ating organisasyon. So, happy 5th year anniversary, HNI Inclusion Philippines, and expect more power to our organization. Okay, that's a wrap for our The Inclusive Report episode for this day, Thursday, March 10, 2022. On behalf of InkluRadyo and HNI Inclusion Philippines, I am your host, Carlos Miguel Kanahashi, your host for today, and with me is our technical assistant, Sir Mark Paulo Betita. May awa ang Diyos, makakaraos po tayo. Sama-sama tayong lalaban para sa pangarap, pamilya at bayan hanggang sa ating tatak para sa One Inclusion Nation. Magandang gabi at pagpalain nawa tayo ng Diyos ng poong may kapal. May the Almighty God bless us all. Makatotohanang inklusyon, hangat buhay ang solusyon. Sa HNI, posible. Pilipinas, God first. HNI, God first. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be back again this weekend for One Inclusion Live Weekend and our InkluRadyo special report for Saturday and Sunday. Have a pleasant evening to all and a goodbye for now. Bye-bye. Thank you, Sir Mark.